Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, Boracay is officially closed.
Ayan ang order ng ating presidente, no, na linisin, rehabilitate yung island. So, kailan yung closure na yan?
After President Rodrigo Duterte orders the quick rehabilitation of one of the world's famous tourist spots.
6 months. Tapusin mo yung problema sa Boracay.
Officials scramble for cleanup and assistance programs.
Our #1 priority is the quality of water.
Without the proclamation, we cannot formally come into the picture to take over the rehabilitation of the island.
But uncertainty still looms over the locals who take their case to the Supreme Court.
Sana yung sinasabi nilang tulong, may tulong talaga nila, ma'am.
Can Boracay swim against the tide and rise up again? Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Boracay local and government officials join us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. The island of Boracay is now temporarily closed to give way to its rehabilitation. This means foreign and local tourists will not be allowed to enter the island for up to 6 months. Some key government officials are now in Boracay to oversee the first days of the rehabilitation. CNN Philippines is monitoring the situation on the island. Our senior correspondent Ruth Cabal is joining us from there. She's been there for a couple of days now. Ruth, tell us more about the activities happening in Boracay today.
Yes, Pinky, as you mentioned, it's the first day of Boracay's temporary closure. Right now, we're here at Bulabog Beach, or they call it the back of the beach because it's on the opposite side of the more popular White Beach to mark the start of the island's rehabilitation. It's here that different groups conducted a cleanup with local residents, PNP and Navy personnel, the Philippine National Red Cross, the Malay Tour Guides Association, and even volunteers from private corporations. One of the tour guides we talked to explains to us, though, that what they're picking up are not trash, but seaweeds, or what they call lusay, just to clear up the shore. The seaweeds are then buried into the sand since they will naturally decompose. Earlier, Pinky, we were also at the White Beach. Compared to the past days, as expected, the beachfront is virtually empty. Only a few tourists are there. The tourism department is allowing tourists who are already on the island to stay if they're originally booked for a day or two more. And Pinky, let me just share with you what we witnessed 12:01 this morning as Boracay officially closed to tourists. There were fireworks, a farewell concert and partying, a seemingly festive atmosphere as Boracay shut down for up to 6 months for cleanup and rehabilitation. But it's not a celebration for most workers here who will be left jobless.
Parang nalulungkot din. Kasi bago close, parang ano na rin. Harapan niyo yun. Income namin. Siyempre, ma'am, nalungkot ako kasi hindi lang naman kasi trabaho yung mawawala sa akin eh. Tapos magkakalayo pa kami ng mga katrabaho ko. And then yun nga, yung financial. Sana yung sinasabi nilang tulong, may tulong talaga nila, ma'am.
Pinky, just a few minutes ago, we saw Public Works Secretary Mark Villar also going around Bulabog Beach. He says he's just inspecting the drainage project as well as the road clearing operations. The DPWH is in charge of the road expansion project here in Boracay. He says 150 personnel of the DPWH have been deployed. Since it's the first day of rehabilitation, Secretary Villar says he just wanted to make sure that everyone's buckled down to work. Pinky.
So Ruth, just to give our viewers a little bit of perspective on where you are, that is the back part of White Beach where dyan yung kite surfing, Ruth. Yan yung kung saan madalas nagka-kite surf. Pero I see merong mga harang sa likod mo. What's that, Ruth?
Yes, Picky, if you recall, may talagang naging viral na video nung tubo na kung saan lumalabas yung sinasabi nilang illegal connection, tapos yung maduming tubig ay lumalabas directly dito sa beach. Dito yon nakita sa may side ng Bulabog Beach. At ang yung nakikita nyo dito sa aking likuran, ito na yung kanilang drainage expansion project kasi bahagi nga nitong rehabilitation program para dito sa Boracay ay talagang i-improve o kaya ay talagang magtatayo ng bagong sewerage system kasi yung marami nga, mahigit 100 dito ang sinasabi, yung mga establishments nakakonekta daw sa illegal na sewerage system. So, kailangan ayusin yan para nga matiyak na malinis na yung magiging tubig dito kasi yan yung isa sa mga major problems dito, yung water pollution, Pinky.
Ruth, pinapakita namin that viral video that you're talking about. Correct? Yan nga yung lumabas, no? Many months back. We're showing it live right now. Napakasama, hindi maganda talaga tingnan. Nakaharang ngayon yan, pero what did you see beyond that fence, Ruth? I know that you're saying na inaayos na siya at kinukumpuni for now.
Tama yan, inaayos na nila dito at ang sinasabi nga ay nagkakaroon na nung dinidig up na nila yung mga ibang posibleng illegal connections dito. Tapos on the other side of this beach din, kung inyong makikita itong mga malalaki yung tubo, yung mga itim na tubo ay ibig sabihin kasi dati yung mga pipes kung saan nga dumadalo yung tubig. Kung makikita, I think kung titignan nyo yung viral video na yan, maninipis lang yung tubo. Pero eto, sinusubukan natin kunan ng live yung mga nakikita nyo na black na yan. Yan na yung mismong gagamitin bilang yung for the sewerage system kung saan dadaloy na nga itong tubig from the establishment. So lahat yan ay aayusin na bilang bahagi ng rehabilitation ng Boracay.
Alam mo, Ruth, balikan natin yung viral video na yan. Thereafter, ang daming mga... Kasi maraming foreigners dyan sa likod no? Sa Bulabog nga that do kite surfing. And they were really complaining about that pipe dahil nga nakalabas at nakikita yung masamang inilalabas niya sa tubig. So at least for now, yan ang inuuna. Ngayon na sarado na ang Boracay, and definitely we will have to see what they plan to do about that. For the meantime, Ruth, thank you so much for that report. Anything else you'd like to add, Ruth?
Yung sinabi mo na lang din yung topic na yan kasi kagabi lang may mga nakausap din tayo na ilang owners ng establishments dito. Tama yung sinasabi nila na dapat daw talaga, ang una talagang ma-address ay ang source of water pollution. Even yung paraan din ng solid waste treatment. Ito naman yung pag-iimbak ng basura kasi talagang marami pa rin natitira na basura dito sa isla, yung solid waste. So sinasabi nga nila na tama rin daw yung direksyon ng gobyerno sa punto na yan na inuuna nga itong pag-solve sa problema sa water pollution and solid waste management. No? Pero kaakibat na rin ng rehabilitation plan, katulad ng nabanggit natin kanina, yung pagpapalawak nga nitong kalsada dito sa Boracay. Kung inyo namang nakikita, talagang kung nakapunta kayo dito, manipis lang yung kalsada. Kaya sinasabi nga ni Secretary Villar, isa yan sa tututukan nila. At umaasa sila na in 6 months ay talagang magkakaroon na ng road expansion dito sa Boracay. Bukod dyan, yung mga illegal structures nga, yung mga malapit sa beach o malapit dun sa shore, ay dapat daw ma-dismantle rin yan. Kung hindi magsa-self-demolish yung mga owners ng mga establishments na yan, ay mapipilitan din yung DPWH na ma-demolish yan. Pero umaasa nga sila na sana maging maayos at mag-cooperate lahat para matapos itong rehabilitation work in 6 months or less, Pinky.
Sure, Ruth, dahil sa pag-ikot mo dyan, dumaan ka doon sa likod, papunta sa Bulabog. Yung daan dyan, sobrang kipot. Kasya lang yung 2 sasakyan na maninipis. Kasi kung medyo malaki na yung sasakyan, iisa lang ang daan dyan. At nahihirapan din ng tao, yung mga pedestrians na maglakad dyan dahil merong konting pedestrian, mamaya bababa ka doon sa kalye, tapos mamaya merong may butas. Mahirap talaga. It's a security nightmare actually for many people and even the cars, mas lalo na yung mga naglalakad dahil pwede kang masaktan o mahulog dyan sa mga daan. So isa yan sa mga unahin sigurado, gaya nga ng sabi ni Ruth, ni Secretary Mark Villar. So Ruth, balikan ka rin ulit namin maya-maya lamang. Maraming salamat sa iyo. Ruth Cabal, reporting to us live from Boracay. She's at the back area of White Beach where it's called where Bulabog is, where the kite surfers normally do their activities. Ruth, thank you. With the closure of Boracay, a lawmaker is urging the Aklan Electric Cooperative not to pass on extra electricity charges to consumers. This as the 6-month closure of business establishments in the island is expected to drive down demand for electricity. Also, what should the government do in helping displaced workers, and what could be the potential economic impact of Boracay's closure? Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Senate Energy Committee Chairman Sherwin Gatchalian. Senator, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. So I know that you came out with that Aklan Electric Cooperative, or Akelco.
Yes.
You want them to issue a force majeure?
Right.
Well, tell us more about it.
Pinky, I'm not, in the beginning, no, I'm not 100% in favor of shutting down the entire island. This is really unprecedented in our history, wherein government is shutting down an entire island to give way to rehabilitation and sustainable development. There are a lot of complications, no, when you shut down an island. One of which is the electric cooperatives, no.
Hindi natin naiisip yan, ha?
Hindi naisip kaagad, no? Because half of the demand of Akelco comes from Boracay, in which almost 90% of that demand comes from the hotels, the restaurants, and the commercial establishments. So when you shut down the entire island and the commercial establishments, walang bibili ng kuryente.
Yeah.
But,
so may supply. Ang daming supply.
Yes, may supply ka ngayon because Akelco contracted that 30 megawatts that is needed in Boracay Island.
Right.
But now there's no demand, so they have to pay for that. No? So the tendency here is that excess supply will now be passed on to the franchise area outside of the island.
Which are?
Which are Antique, some parts of Aklan, those within the mainland. No? So it is estimated about 178 million pesos are to be passed on to the consumers outside of the island. No? But we are now under this belief, no, that Akelco can invoke force majeure, no, because this is unseen and unplanned. And ang kailangan lang dito, it is important that government also declares the state of calamity.
Yeah.
So under the state of calamity, Akelco can now use that state of calamity to invoke force majeure and tell the generators that, look, hindi namin pinlano to, so you cannot force us to buy that excess supply.
We're talking about, it's a little technical though, Senator, from a demand, I think, of 28 megawatts, that will go down to about 4 megawatts. So parang anong gagawin ng Akelco doon sa oversupply nila ngayon?
Sa 24 megawatts na oversupply. No? Because,
pero tama ba yun? Can you pass that on to consumers? Legally, is that possible?
It's possible legally, no? Because they contracted eh. Ibig sabihin, they already signed a contract saying that I have to buy 60 megawatts of power from my generators. Now that you cut half of that, saan ko dadalhin itong 30 megawatts, over 30 megawatts of power? So that's why one of the legal remedies that we saw is after the government declares a state of calamity, Akelco can now say, look, no, we're invoking force majeure because we didn't plan this, and therefore you cannot force us to absorb that 30 megawatts extra supply.
So saan pupunta yun? What's going to happen to that?
That's a very good question, no? Mapapasa naman yan sa generators. Now, the generators will have to absorb that excess supply. But absorbing that excess supply means that these are losses, no? Or opportunity losses for the generators because nakakontrata na yan eh. So, saan nila dadalhin itong excess supply? They can sell it in the spot market, or
I was actually going to ask you that. Is it possible to sell that?
Well, technically they can. No? They can sell it in the spot market, but the spot market is a little low in terms of pricing. So may mga ganun na technicalities. Again, these are unforeseen events, no, because of the closure, and there are repercussions in terms of the power sector because of the closure.
And it's something, obviously, you are studying, being the chairman of the Senate Committee on Energy. Nakita mo na to when the President had declared that we're going to shut down Boracay for 6 months.
Yes, we had some, researchers on this, no, and we were trying to find ways to mitigate the closure. That's why in the beginning I was not in favor. No, in fact, I'm still not in favor. But I do respect the strategy of the national government in terms of rehabilitation. In fact, I heard Asek then sing in one occasion explaining the rationale, and I do respect that. No? But there are repercussions, no? Economics-wise, definitely the livelihood and the jobs of the 33,000 employees working in Malay and also in Boracay Island, and also the situation of the electric co-op.
For the most part, Senator, I guess people were very concerned, which rightfully so, to the yung mga manggagawa, the employees who will lose their jobs, no? And we don't see the trickle effect, really. Everything that's around it, along the perimeter of this closure. We need to ask the Senator about the state of calamity. It has not been
declared. I'm sure it's being put in place.
And no EO has been signed. We're going to get your reaction on that. We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. When we return, we'll still have some key government officials on the temporary shutdown of Boracay. Stay with us. And of course, Senator Gatchalian will still be with us. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Still with us, Senator Win Gatchalian. So the question now is, what has Kelco said? Are they going to
well,
declare?
That's actually not yet very definite. No? In their presentation and disclosures, they gave us an option, which is to for government to give them subsidies, which I don't agree, because subsidies means that all of us, no, as being taxpayers, will have to subsidize that. But again, no, in principle, this is an unforeseen event. Nobody predicted that Boracay Island will be shut down. So by that virtue alone, legally they can invoke force majeure so that the cost will not be passed on to the consumers outside the franchise area or to us as taxpayers.
But why wouldn't they? What would be the reason why they wouldn't want to declare a force majeure?
I think this is a legal issue and a legal question that they are studying carefully. But from our standpoint, and we looked at also the legalities, that they can invoke force majeure. And when I say force majeure, Pinky, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
The generators can invoke force majeure. The co-op can enforce force majeure. So both of them can invoke force majeure.
So for those who don't, are not really experts on this, you were saying that because there is oversupply, the oversupply can be sold to
in the spot market.
In the spot market.
Right.
Pero matatalo ba sila?
That's a big possibility, because the spot market right now is very low. It's about 2 pesos. And they're selling at an average about 4 pesos.
So by 50%.
Malulugi sila ng 50%. But better than nothing, no? Better than just
yeah,
being
but they
stuck.
can, sir, they can say that, but this is not our fault, di ba?
That's why they can also invoke force majeure, no?
Yeah.
Because the plants, may mga suppliers rin sila, meron rin silang ibang dapat bayaran, and they can invoke the same. No?
Okay, all right. State of calamity, Senator, and EO still not available. What are your thoughts on that?
I think because I was a mayor in the past, no, and I've declared state of calamities also during
storms and typhoons.
So you have to really set forth and itemize the reasons why declaring state of calamity, because it has wide-ranging effects, no? Including declaring force majeures or invoking force majeures, or the businesses can also invoke that in their operations. No? For example, if they have loans in the bank, no, they can say that, look, I cannot pay my interest rates yet because because of the state of calamity and we don't have any revenue. So it has far-reaching effects, and I think government is really itemizing carefully and making sure that all the legalities are well in place.
So meaning from the NDRRMC giving this to the Office of the President, you're saying that the Office of the President still has to fine-tune this and really look into it.
But from the declaration of the ILG and the other government officials, the declaration of state calamity is already on its way.
Yeah, but is that normal, that it's already shut down, that we've been talking about this? The President spoke about this in February. He said, let's go back a little bit. The President said, fix that in 6 months or I'll close it down. That's in February. And then in April, decides to close it down for 6 months. Hindi man umabot dun sa 6 months. We've been talking about this, government has been talking about this, and yet the state of calamity.
Well, I can only say it from my experience, no? And I think from my analysis is it's really purely a legal process, and the intention is there because one of the key features of declaring a state of calamity is to access the calamity fund.
The release of funds, yeah.
Exactly. So
they can't touch
they
that.
cannot touch it yet.
Tap
They cannot
it yet.
touch it yet.
Yeah.
No? They cannot touch it yet because you have to declare a state calamity to touch or to access the calamity
But
funds.
if they're saying that they have 2 billion pesos in calamity funds for the workers who have lost their jobs beginning today, wasn't the release necessary prior to this? So
there are a lot of activities that you need to undertake before the closure. One of which is identifying those 33,000 workers. No? It's not easy to identify. No?
Yeah.
First, you have to identify. Next, you have to validate because a lot of people will take advantage of that
True.
cash that you will be giving out. And you have to dispense, because dispensing to the 33,000 people is not an easy task. No? So there are a lot of preparatory activities that you need to do before shutting down the entire island.
which they should have done.
I understand they should. No, I trust that the ILG is well versed in this type of activities because this is actually a largely a local, on the ground process. And I think I have trust in the DILG that they did a lot of these preparatory activities.
Apparently, there's still a lot of people without IDs in Boracay. But anyway, let's bring this in first. Security forces staged a dramatic rescue right before Boracay's temporary closure. I believe that was yesterday. This is to test the capability of different security units to handle such scenarios. The Western Visayas Police stressed the demonstration is part of regular security drills and not just preparation for the Boracay closure. The Philippine Coast Guard is also ready to secure Boracay with 2 ships and additional floating assets to patrol the island. But others claim this is an overkill. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Coast Guard spokesperson Captain Armand Balillo. Sir Armand, good morning to you, sir. You are in Boracay.
Hi, good morning, Vicky. Yes, I'm in Boracay right now.
Sir, tell us the primary reason of the Coast Guard being in Boracay and their focus during the 6-month closure.
Pinky, based on the instruction of the commandant, we sent 2 ships here, not just for Boracay alone. No? Nagpapatrol din ito sa Panay Island. And nangyari lang, merong closure dito sa Boracay. So, we sent them here and to augment yung mga forces ng Coast Guard here in the island. And aside from the 2 ships, we have 6 floating assets patrolling the island and contributing to the security effort of the interagency task force here.
But exactly what is the role of the Coast Guard, sir?
Well, we are here to enforce the regulations relating to maritime activities like the 3 nautical, 3-kilometer zone disallowance of any floating assets. And then no swimming zone. And we're also implementing yung fishing only for the residents regulations that was given by the local government unit.
So how many members of the Philippine Coast Guard will be stationed in Boracay, sir?
We have a station here, Pinky, that's really assigned here. We have personnel assigned here, and we just augmented them with 2 vessels with personnel. And some came from special function office from Manila, like the Marine Environmental Protection, also to monitor the quality of the water in Boracay. And that's for the Coast Guard consumption.
Oh, also the quality of the water is something the Coast Guard will be undertaking?
Yes, of course, in cooperation with the Environmental Management Bureau. The Coast Guard has jurisdiction over if the pollution is ship-based, but we can contribute in also monitoring the quality of the water here for the Department of Environment and Natural Resources.
Sir, the 2 ships, are they still there? How long are they going to be there?
Yes, they're still here, Pinky, and patrolling right now. People can see the ships here, and we are also putting boot markers for areas where the people can swim. And they will be here for the 6-month duration of the closure. Not necessarily the 2 of them. Alternately, they will patrol the area.
So at least 1 will be around the area, sir?
Yes.
Among the 2 big ships?
Yes.
And, sir, I know you said that you have a station there, but there has been augmentation, probably from headquarters. How many members of the Coast Guard will be staying in Boracay, sir, for the 6-month or maybe 4-month closure?
Yeah, actually, we just brought in at least 3 teams. One two from the Special Operation Force, and from the Marine Environment Protection. Of course, my unit, the Civil Relations Service, is also here. We are looking at the possibility of involving the Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary in some of the programs of the Philippine Coast Guard, like the coral reef enhancement and other environmental activities that we may implement during the 6-month period.
Captain Balilo, some people are saying because of the capability demonstration that was done yesterday, some are saying that it's a little bit of an overkill. What are your thoughts on that?
Alam mo, okay na rin siguro na medyo overkill siya para walang makalusot, no? The thing is, we are here to, to secure Boracay together with other agencies, and pinagpe-prepare natin yung mga worst scenario. And I think yun naman ang wisdom kung bakit yung mga organizers staged that capability demonstration yesterday.
Is there anything that the Coast Guard is seeing that you need to look into more deeply, sir? Or siguro yung kailangan mas pansinin ng Coast Guard while the 6-month closure is ongoing?
Well, we will also focus on safety procedures, Pinky, while ang instruction ni Admiral Hermoino to keep the Coast Guard busy in terms of reviewing the maritime safety also. And yung mga bangka, yung kanilang seaworthiness together with Marina, and yung mga floating equipment na magagamit for rescue. And also, kung walang gagawin, we are also thinking of conducting water search and rescue training for both operators as first responders in case merong maritime emergency. And then we are checking also the lifeguard system here.
Yes.
And we might conduct lifeguard training for residents of Boracay. So in time for the opening after 6 months, yung lifeguard system dito in place na rin.
Because, sir, medyo minsan wala akong lifeguard talaga dyan sa Boracay, ha? Hindi ho ba? Well, sometimes I see them in some parts, pero hindi ho siya consistent.
Yes, that's what we're checking now, Pinky, and hopefully we could correct that event.
All right. Sir, thank you so much, Coast Guard spokesperson, Captain Arman Balilo. Senator, your reaction to our interview with Captain Balilo?
Well, for me, Pinky, I don't believe in over-preparation and overkill. No?
Okay, na overkill, no?
It's good to over-prepare. No? In fact, if they can prepare every day, every single hour, then so much the better. No? Because you have to prepare for any eventuality. No? You have terrorism, you have people who will try to loot, no? Because wala nang tao dun, and there are elements who will try to go in and steal belongings or steal equipment from the hotels there. So it's better to be prepared. No? And if you look at in the advanced countries, no? Kung merong isang incident lang, the entire SWAT, no, entire federal army comes in and helps out. No? This is really a good sign of preparation and a good way of saying to the public that we are ready.
And absolutely, it's open water, sir.
Exactly, exactly, and it's an island. No, they, people can go in and out in any part of the island.
Would you even think there could be some sort of security threat there?
It's a possibility, no? But I think more so of the looting, no? Because it's a deserted place right now. No one's there. I don't think any guest will be walking around anymore. So there's a big possibility that looters will come in from different places and try to steal the items of the facilities there.
All right. Let's bring this into the Department of Interior and Local Government. Sir, you were talking about this a while ago. But this is another story. They will be filing charges of grave neglect of duty against more than 10 incumbent local officials in Boracay. The DILG is currently authenticating pieces of evidence, and while no names were mentioned, authorities say the investigation procedure covers the governor of Aklan down to the barangay captains in Boracay. The DILG will ask the PNP Crime Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, to check possible private entities coming in. So, how will the national government take over without the president's proclamation of a state of calamity? Let's go straight to the source of the story. Interior Assistant Secretary Epimaco Densing Asek. Welcome to the show again, sir. All right, we lost him on the line. We'll have the DILG back after the break. We'll be going on a short break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Boracay is officially closed for rehabilitation, but there remains a challenge to the government's move. Here in Manila, 3 private individuals filed before the Supreme Court a petition seeking to stop the shutdown. Zian Arcangel reports.
2 workers in Boracay and a tourist are asking the Supreme Court to stop President Rodrigo Duterte from shutting down the island, saying this violates their constitutional right to travel and due process. A day before the shutdown, representatives from the National Union of People's Lawyers filed a petition on their behalf asking the court to issue a temporary restraining order. And as an alternative, they also applied for a status quo ante order to revert the situation before the closure should it push through before the Supreme Court decides on the matter. Respondents in the petition are President Duterte, Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea, and Interior Officer in Charge Eduardo Año. The respondents called Boracay's closure a patent of abuse of power since there was no law passed or order signed about it. They added that the closure, even if it is aimed at rehabilitating Boracay, violates due process since residents and tourists will be affected even if they did not break any law. The lawyers group says the petition was only filed today because Boracay's residents were afraid to challenge the closure. Since the Supreme Court may not act on the petition today, the petitioners are hoping it will issue a status quo ante order soon so that tourists will be allowed back on the island. Zian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
And reacting to the petition, Malacanang says there's no merit for any private party to stop Boracay's closure. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque points out the Supreme Court itself had ruled Boracay is owned primarily by the state. Roque says unless a temporary restraining order is issued, the planned closure of Boracay will proceed. And we now have on the line, do we have him on the line? Interior Assistant Secretary Epimaco Densing. Asek, are you there, sir?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
welcome to the show. First, sir, let's talk about what you are busy with on the ground now.
Well, right now we're moving around to see whether the security measures are being implemented, and also just to remind our security personnel to make sure that they don't serve as annoyance to the residents and there's still so many tourists around. The instruction is really to just give them a free willing hand moving in and out of the island, and for them to feel secure. In some areas here, some of the businessmen, business establishments, who've committed to do some self-demolitions, already started to self-demolish, specifically those who have violated the 25+5 easement rule. So they've been true to their word. In fairness to the businessmen, even last night I spoke with the officers of the Boracay Foundation Inc. And they're very, very, very supportive of the rehabilitation program. They've already understood the details, and they feel they just want to help to fast-track everything so that we can have a soft opening by the 4th month, before the 6-month deadline.
Yeah, I guess that's a glimmer of hope, sir, for some or for most of the people living in Boracay that it could possibly open in 4 months. But, sir, could you give us an update on those business establishments who have already self-demolished? Meron na ho ba that...
Yeah, I think somewhere in Station 2, Station 1, there are a number of them who've been demolishing some of their structures slowly. Last night, some of the businessmen I spoke to already have a demolition permit from the municipality of Malay. So they'll be on track to start their demolition starting today and in the next few days.
Any names you can give us, Asek?
Well, the Willis, they already have a demolition permit. I just didn't get the names of the other establishments in Station 1 and Station 2. But some of them, we've seen started to demolish some of their structures.
And, sir, what about West Cove?
West Cove, that's already half demolished. In fact, the demolition of West Cove will become fast-track because, if I may quote Secretary Año during our cabinet meeting last week, he mentioned, if I may quote, it's good that the DPWH is here. I'm going to ask for assistance to borrow your equipment so that we can fast-track the demolition of West Cove, which is actually in a no-build zone.
Okay.
So,
I need to bring this in. One of our Facebook, who was watching us was asking about West Cove. I wanted to bring it in, but hindi ko na po na yung pangalan kasi mabilis po yung pagpasok ng mga comments. Ang tanong po sa West Cove, bakit daw lahat ide-demolish kung meron lang daw, sir, a part of it that was in violation. So it's best for you. Okay.
Pasensya na, of course, that the whole Westcom is in violation of not one law, but all laws. It doesn't have any permit from the national government. It doesn't have any permit from the local government. No permit whatsoever. And it is in a low-build zone. So it's the whole structure itself violating environmental and local laws. And the demolition of that island has been ordered by the courts as early as 2014, and it is just now that we started demolishing a structure that we consider as a mother of all violations here in the island of Boracay.
ASEC, are there establishments that are giving you a hard time?
No, they've been very cooperative. After we've talked to all the stakeholders, the businessmen, the workers, non-government and people's organization here last week, I spoke in detail of the whole program, in detail, including the rationale behind it. They all agreed, and they are very, very supportive as of today. I spoke last night with Ms. Nanette Graff, and he said, let's go on with it. They're even worried that a petition for a restraining order has been filed. They feel that it might delay the whole process of rehabilitation. They want the rehabilitation to be finished as soon as possible. They feel that whoever filed the petition does not know the real sentiments of Boracaynos and the businessmen here in Boracay.
Asa, can we get your reaction on this SC petition, sir?
Well, first of all, I think if we put in the right legal reasons behind it, that will be dismissed immediately because, first of all, in October 2008, Boracay Island has already been declared as sovereign property. It is owned by the state. So the first thing that we have to consider is, since we are the owners or the state is the owner, it can declare or choose whoever they want to let in the island or out. That's number one. Number two, in the interest of public service, public interest, and public safety or public health, the government, in the exercise of its police power, can actually say that one area cannot be can be closed primarily so that it can protect the environment and the public, specifically on the health issues, because there are really risks right now in the island. Pinky, last night the water quality that is discharged from the island has worsened. As I mentioned, the quality that should be discharged, it must be at least 400 mpm for every 100 ml. In the second week of March, which prompted Secretary Simatu to ask for a closure, it went up to 18,000 mpm for every 100 ml. As of last evaluation a few days ago, it's now 173,000 mpm for 100 ml. That's the fecal coliform content of what is discharged in the island. So, it really has worsened. That's why we really have to do something about it.
Sir, what about the officials being investigated? Any update there, sir?
Well, the update is we've already drafted a complaint sheet as early as last week, but it's unfortunate that the evidence or documents that we got from the other agencies was not yet or were not authenticated. So we're trying to ask the agencies to give us authenticated copies of the documents we're asking. Hopefully, it will be signed. Once we get those evidences on hand or authenticated evidence, we will attach it to the complaint sheet, and from there we can officially make administrative cases against local officials. That's only phase one. The phase two may be a bit harder because we are now asking COA for a special audit on the collection of the environmental fee. And aside from that, we're also asking them how it was utilized. How much was taken and how it was utilized are the two main issues for the phase two of the potential filing, this time of criminal charges in violation of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act.
Any update on the number of officials being investigated, sir?
Well, initially, we're looking at least 10. Now, depending on the authenticated documents, it can go up or even down. But we intend to file by the first week of May, which is after May 1. And we're trying to ask government agencies to give us the authenticated copy right away. So we have attachments to the complaint.
All right. Just the last question, sir. Are you worried that there is no EO or there's been no signature on the declaration of a state of calamity?
Well, we're still hopeful that the President will sign a declaration of state of calamity, closure, and executive order to put up officially the Task Force Boracay, an interagency task force, before he leaves for Singapore today. But even if it gets delayed, again, by the order of the President in the practice or exercise, valid exercise of his police power in the interest of public health, public interest, and public safety, he can actually order the closure. And again, not to mention the fact that Boracay really is a sovereign state to which the island or the government must have full control of what should be happening in the island.
Interior.
Should go out.
All right, Interior Assistant Secretary Epimaco Denseng. Sir, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Thank you.
Thank you. Magandang umaga.
And still, of course, joining us in the studio, so many reactions, Senator, from you. Let's start with questioning before the petition before the Supreme Court.
Well, for me, it's already moot, no? Because the island is already closed as we speak. And I really believe that the President acted on the best interest of the public, meaning that he acted now to prevent a scenario wherein Boracay will be at the point of no return. No? We have seen health risk. We have seen a lot of possibility that Boracay will become an unsustainable development. And the result of that is there'll be health risk, there'll be risk to the residents of Boracay. So the President exercised his police powers, and that's within the powers and the jurisdictions of the President.
Even if some of you, including yourself, Senator Nancy Binay, wanted this, I think, face by face.
Exactly,
no? Even
exactly.
Senator
Well,
JB, yeah.
one of my primary reasons, Pink, is really the 33,000 employees who are working in Malay and also in Boracay Island. And we estimated an income loss of about 2 billion pesos. No? Ibig sabihin, 2 billion pesos ang mawawala.
In 6 months?
In 6 months.
How, you know, we were talking about that. I just want to share this with those watching us. The Senator and I were talking about that during the break. 2 billion in
income loss.
In income loss sa mga manggagawa.
Benefits nila.
Paano nyo nakuha yun? I mean, if the DOLE doesn't even have the complete list, how come
Well, this is actually consistent with what DBM said, no? About they need about 2 billion to initially, no, to cover the initial effects of the closure, no. And we gathered information from the Philippine Statistics Authority, we gathered information from various sources. So this is the high estimate, no. But definitely you have to prepare on the high side. You don't prepare on the minimum side, no. You prepare on the high side. So my initial reaction is dapat na-identify na yung 33,000, no, validated na yung 33,000. And what is the mechanism to giving out the 2 billion pesos to the 33,000 employees and laborers?
Yeah, that needs to be understood. I think a lot of the workers' concern is that because even yesterday they were going to the, I think the DSWD office, asking for transportation allowance.
Exactly.
And it was...
Just imagine the masahistas, no? That they earn, they're hand to mouth. What they earn during the day is what they spend for their families. And all of a sudden, wala na silang revenue. No? So we have to take these things into account, and we have to identify all of those type of livelihood, especially the informal sector. No? Because we estimated about 4,000 informal sector, 4,000 in the island alone. And it was swelled to about 15,000 if you include Malay, because Malay is the jumping point.
Yes.
So all of the carinderias there, all of the grocery,
Tsaka suppliers nila,
the suppliers
sir,
are from Malay. No? So just the informal sector alone is about half of the 33,000.
Right. I think they're pegging it at 17 formal and 17 informal.
More or less, no? More or less, around that vicinity.
So I guess we need to talk about the plight, what will happen to the workers from here on now that it's closed. We'll be talking about that after the break. This is the SARS on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. I was thinking, how did you get those?
It's really a huge. This is from our research staff. It really have to call information from PSA, on the ground, estimates. But it's really estimates. But we're always taking the high side because
of course,
be conservative. So mahirap. It's not an easy task.
AC, okay. Sa Jetty Port. Yeah, I'll talk to the senator about the plight of the workers. Papasok lang ng coffee after 50 minutes.
Ay, thank you.
AC, hi!
Hi!
Hi, sexy. Naka-bathing suit ka?
Bawal. Pinagsabihan ako ni Sir Pat.
Sa Instagram lang yata eh.
Oo, ang sexy. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Local and foreign tourists are no longer allowed to go to Boracay. Let's check the situation at the Caticlan Jetty Port. Our correspondent, AC Nichols, is there. AC, what's happening there?
Pinky, security is tight here at the Caticlan Jetty Port. This is the only entry point to Boracay Island. There are uniformed personnel around the premises and people are going through strict inspection before they are allowed to enter the port. Residents basically present or have to present their barangay IDs while the workers show their workers permit or the terminal pass. Now, passengers, when they pass through their designated lanes, they will receive a stamp on their arm. This stamp bears the word verified, and passengers will need to show this stamp for them to be able to buy boat or ferry tickets to the island. So far, everything seems to be going smoothly, at least for those with barangay IDs and the workers permit or the terminal pass. Though some employees who are not Boracay residents and who were not able to secure terminal passes before are having a hard time getting in. We spoke to one of them earlier. Here's what he told us.
Hindi pa nga ako makapasok, mayroon akong guest na habulin doon. Hindi pa ako makapasok samantalang may ID na po ako. Yun ang tanong. Dadaan daw po muna kayo? Opo, dadaan po muna sa DILG.
Now, the one-stop shop for all concerns regarding the closure is also set up here at the Caticlan Jetty Port. But we noticed that there are no representatives from some of the national agencies like Pag-ibig and DSWD. And we asked the port administrator about that. He told us that he's not sure why some of the representatives are not here because apparently what they agreed on is that all the representatives should be here by 6 a.m. So it looks like some of the representatives are running late. Pinky.
Well, AC, that's a little unfortunate to hear because today Boracay is closed and some officials are not present. When you call that a one-stop shop, that means it's a one-stop shop and the officials or the people manning those booths must be there. So, ganun lang yun. AC, sabi nila, they don't know why some of the representatives aren't there?
Yeah, well, they're trying to contact the representatives who are supposed to be here, but we're not sure what's causing the delay, why they're not yet here. But so far, also, we're not yet seeing any of the passengers or any affected residents or workers who are looking for these representatives. So it seems that it's not really that big of a deal yet, but still, since it's a one-stop shop, there should be a representative for all the government agencies here. So we'll see later on if these representatives will arrive. Pinky?
All right. Thanks a lot, AC Nichols, reporting to us from the Caticlan Jetty Port. Let's go back to Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Sir, so we're talking about the numbers. They're something that we really need to look into because if you talk to the people there, ang hinihingi po nila transportation.
Very basic.
Yeah, the very basic.
Livelihood, transportation, maybe food. And these are very basic concerns. So because again, almost half of the laborers there are from the informal sector. No? And if you look at the demographics of the informal sector, ito yung talagang hand-to-mouth ang kanilang livelihood. That's why it's important for government to make sure, number one in the agenda is to address the livelihood of the 33,000 employees and laborers in the island.
Do you think it's addressed?
From what I'm seeing right now, no, it seems to me that preparatory work is insufficient and we need to triple time, even quadruple time, because baka by the time we reopen the island, hindi pa na-identify itong 33,000.
Can you imagine?
And look, poverty is also a problem here in our country. Although, admittedly, Aklan has one of the lowest poverty rates, no, because of tourism. It's about 14%. Still, no, we don't want these people to enter into the poverty demographics, no, because of their livelihood, they're now above poverty. But once we take out that livelihood, they will now slip into poverty once
That's
more.
right. Is there anything you can do in the Senate, or what can the Senate do? Are there plans?
I think the Senate has the power of oversight, no? And once the Senate convenes, we will be convening an oversight committee, and through the Committee on Tourism by Senator Nancy Binay, just to overlook and see. No? This will be a multi-committee oversight to identify the problems and get inputs also from the different departments.
Okay, and it will really be good, sir, if the plight of the workers.
Yes, I think that is number one. That should be the top priority, the plight and the livelihood of the workers there.
All right, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, thank you so much for your time, sir. And I know we'll be speaking more about this as the weeks progress, as the days progress. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And time now for today's In Focus here on The Source. So, let's take a step back and look at Boracay in the 80s. Did you see this back then?
Yeah,
in the island paradise?
I was there during those times.
Was virtually unknown. There was no electricity. This is how Boracay looked like 3 decades ago. Untouched, unexposed. In those days, the indigenous people still held most of the island, and only a handful of tourists visited the island. There were no big resorts, just small cottages. The beachfront was still clear of restaurants or any establishments. Its shoreline was lined with rows of palm trees. I remember that. This is how island life in Boracay was in the 80s, a far cry from the bustling Boracay of today. No, I think I was there in the 80s.
80s, yeah. 80s during our time.
80s.
During our generation.
Early 80s. Late 80s. Again, Senator, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.